Hey guys, tonight we'll wander together into the heart of a medieval town, where the apothecary's shop is already alive with the gentle magic of herbs, potions, and the quiet comfort of care. Let us begin at the edge of a winding lane, where the cobblestones are cool and uneven, worn smooth by generations of footsteps. The air is crisp and fresh, tinged with the scent of dew, damp earth, wild thyme, and the faint, sweet perfume of lavender drifting from a nearby window box. The only sounds are the distant, drowsy call of a dove and the soft, rhythmic clatter of a milk cart making its way through the waking town. Our destination is a small, sturdy shop with a painted sign swinging gently above the door, a mortar and pestle, carved and gilded, catching the morning light. If you pause at the threshold, you'll feel the first breath of warmth from within and hear the low, steady hum of quiet activity, a sound as steady and comforting as a lullaby. Step inside with me. The world changes at once. The air is warm and fragrant, thick with the mingled scents of dried rosemary, sage, and the sharp, green tang of mint. The light is soft, filtered through small, wavy glass panes and the gentle glow of beeswax candles. The floor is rough beneath your feet, scattered with a dusting of petals and the occasional stray seed. The walls are lined with shelves, each one crowded with jars of every shape and size, some filled with golden honey, others with mysterious powders, and still others with bundles of dried herbs tied with twine. At the heart of the shop is the work table, a broad, sturdy slab of oak, its surface worn smooth by years of careful hands. The apothecary, a woman named Marga, moves with the easy grace of someone who knows her craft by heart. Her hands are strong and sure, stained with berry juice and the faint blue of woad. Her hair is tucked beneath a linen cap, and her apron is patched and worn, but always clean. Marga's face is kind, with a smile that comes easily and a laugh that bubbles up like spring water. She greets you with a nod, her eyes bright in the candlelight, and gestures for you to come closer. The shop is alive with small, comforting sounds. The soft clink of glass as Marga measures out a spoonful of dried chamomile. The gentle scrape of a pestle grinding herbs in a stone mortar. The quiet, rhythmic snip of scissors as she trims a bundle of thyme. In the corner, a cat curls on a pile of old linen, purring so quietly you can feel it more than hear it. Every so often, the cat opens one eye, surveys the room, and, finding everything in order, returns to her dreams of mice and spilled cream. There is a quiet magic in the way the morning unfolds. Marga selects a handful of dried rose petals, their color still bright and their scent sweet and heady. She crushes them gently, mixing them with honey and a splash of vinegar to make a syrup for sore throats. The mixture glistens in the morning light, and the scent is so lovely you almost wish for a tickle in your throat, just for an excuse to taste it. As the first customers arrive, the shop fills with the gentle bustle of daily life. The door swings open and closed, letting in bursts of cool air and the cheerful chatter of townsfolk. A farmer arrives with a basket of eggs, trading them for a jar of salve for his wife's aching hands. Marga greets him with a smile and a gentle tease about the size of his prize hen. A young mother comes in with her child, seeking a remedy for a stubborn cough. Marga listens carefully, her hands gentle as she measures out a spoonful of licorice root and a pinch of wild cherry bark. There are oddities and gentle humor in every corner. A jar of pickled garlic, said to ward off both illness and unwanted suitors. A bundle of dried nettles, carefully labeled for courage Z and for soup, if you're brave enough. A small round stone that Marga keeps on her desk, smooth and cool. A gift from a friend who claimed it would keep her hands steady on long, sleepy afternoons. Marga laughs as she tells you about the time she accidentally dyed a batch of linen the color of moss. It's sold out at the market, of course. People will buy anything if you tell them it's good for the nerves. As the sun climbs higher, the shop fills with golden light, and the shelves are crowded with jars of every color and shape. Marga greets each customer by name, offering a tincture, a kind word, and the occasional extra spoonful of honey for a child with bright eyes and sticky fingers. The apothecary is a haven, a place where the worries of the world are left at the door, and the only thing that matters is the next remedy, the next shared smile. And so, as the morning unfolds, we find ourselves in a world where comfort is measured in handfuls of herbs and the gentle glow of candlelight, where every jar is a small act of care, and where the simple magic of the apothecary at dawn is enough to make even the sleepiest soul feel at home. The morning sun climbs higher, and the apothecary's shop is now aglow with a gentle, golden light. The air is thick with the mingled scents of rosemary, dried orange peel, and the faint, medicinal sharpness of vinegar. Marga, our apothecary, moves with a quiet, unhurried grace, her hand steady as she measures, grinds, and stirs. The wooden table is scattered with petals, seeds, and the odd, slightly lopsided spoon, each one a small, familiar tool in the gentle art of healing. The shelves are a patchwork of color and texture. Jars of honey catch the light, their golden contents glowing like captured sunlight. Bundles of dried lavender and sage hang from the rafters, their fragrance drifting down with every movement of the air. There are crocks of ointment, bottles of syrup, and tiny vials of oil, each carefully labeled in Marga's neat, looping script. If you've ever opened a spice cabinet and felt a wave of comfort and curiosity, you'll know the feeling. A sense that every jar holds a story, and every scent is a memory waiting to be made. The shop is alive with small, comforting sounds. The soft clink of glass as Marga pours a tincture into a bottle. The gentle scrape of a pestle as she grinds dried rose hips for a soothing tea. The quiet rhythmic snip of scissors as she trims a bundle of mint. In the corner, the cat stretches and yawns, then hops onto the windowsill to watch the world outside. A world that, for now, seems far away and full of promise. Customers come and go, each bringing a bit of the outside world with them. The blacksmith arrives, his hands rough and stained, seeking a salve for a burn. Marga listens to his story, her eyes kind, and mixes a paste of honey and comfrey, her hands moving with practiced care. She wraps his hand in a strip of linen, her touch gentle, and offers a quiet joke about the dangers of daydreaming near the forge. The blacksmith laughs, promising to keep his mind on his work, at least until the next market day. A young woman comes in, her cheeks flushed and her eyes bright, asking for a remedy for sleeplessness. Marga selects a jar of dried chamomile, its scent sweet and calming, and adds a pinch of lemon balm. She explains how to steep the herbs in hot water, her voice low and soothing, and offers a small, hand-carved spoon as a gift. For stirring dreams, she says with a smile, and the young woman leaves with a lighter heart. There are oddities and gentle humor everywhere. A jar of pickled onions labeled for courage heirs and for keeping away nosy neighbors. A bundle of dried nettles, said to bring luck if hung above the door, though Marga suspects it's just as likely to bring sneezes. A small, round stone that sits on the counter, cool and smooth, a talisman for steady hands and calm thoughts. Marga tells a story about the time she tried to make a love potion and ended up with a batch of syrup so sour that even the cat refused to taste it. Love, she says, is best left to its own devices, and perhaps a little honey. The apothecary is a place of gentle rituals and quiet connection. Marga brews a pot of tea, the steam curling in the air, and shares a cup with a neighbor who has come to trade a basket of apples for a jar of cough syrup. They sit together by the fire, the warmth seeping into their bones, and talk of gardens, weather, and the small, steady joys of daily life. The cat, ever the opportunist, curls up on Marga's lap, purring with the satisfaction of a creature who knows she is exactly where she belongs. As the day unfolds, the shop is filled with the gentle rhythm of work and the quiet magic of care. Marga prepares a batch of elderberry syrup, her hands moving with the slow certainty of someone who has done this 1,000 times. She hums a tune as she works, the melody drifting through the shop like a blessing. The shelves fill with jars and bottles, each one a promise of comfort, a small act of hope in a world that can sometimes feel too large and uncertain. There is a sense of community here, a feeling that everyone belongs, that every face is familiar, every voice a thread in the fabric of the town. Marga helps a child with a scraped knee, offers a listening ear to a neighbor with a heavy heart, and shares a laugh with the baker, who claims her cough syrup is the secret ingredient in his famous honey cakes. The world outside may be busy and unpredictable, but within the apothecary's walls there is warmth, safety, and the quiet magic of belonging. And so, as the sun climbs higher and the shadows grow shorter, the gentle art of the medieval apothecary continues. A world of comfort, care, and the simple, enduring magic of making something good with your own two hands. As the afternoon drifts toward evening, the apothecary's shop settles into a gentle, golden hush. The sun slants through the small, wavy glass windows, painting the shelves and jars in warm amber light. The air is thick with the mingled scents of dried lavender, beeswax, and the faint, spicy tang of ginger root. The cat, now fully awake and feeling rather important, makes her rounds, pausing to inspect a basket of dried rose hips, then leaping gracefully onto the counter to supervise Marga's work. Marga, our apothecary, tidies her work table, her hands moving with the slow, practiced ease of someone who has spent a lifetime in the gentle art of care. She lines up her jars, honey, mint, elderberry, and a particularly fine batch of marigold petals, each one a small promise of comfort. She checks the labels, her script neat and looping, and smiles at the memory of a time when she accidentally swapped the labels for nettle and lemon balm. The tea was a bit more exciting that week, she recalls, her eyes twinkling. The last customers of the day arrive, bringing with them the soft, familiar sounds of the village winding down. A shepherd comes in, his hands rough and his voice low, asking for a salve for his dog's sore paw. Marga kneels to greet the dog, her touch gentle as she applies a dab of ointment and offers a quiet word of encouragement. The shepherd thanks her with a shy smile and a promise of fresh wool come spring. A group of children stop by, their cheeks flushed from play, each clutching a coin and a hopeful look. Marga greets them with a wink and a small jar of sugared violets, for sweet dreams and sweeter tempers. The children giggle, their laughter bright and clear, and the cat, ever the opportunist, accepts a gentle pat before returning to her post by the fire. There are oddities and gentle humor even in the closing of the day. A jar of pickled garlic, rumored to keep away both colds and overly talkative neighbors. A bundle of dried sage, hung above the door for luck, though Marga suspects it's just as likely to bring in a bit of extra dust. A small, round pebble sits on the counter, cool and smooth, a talisman for steady hands and calm thoughts. Marga tells a story about the time she tried to make a potion for courage and ended up with a batch so strong that even the bravest knight in the village admitted he'd rather face a dragon than drink it again. As the sun sets, the shop glows with the soft light of candles, their flames flickering in the gentle draft from the open door. Marga sweeps the floor, gathering up the day's dust and petals, and sets a pot of chamomile tea to steep on the hearth. She sits by the window, her hands wrapped around a warm mug, and watches as the village settles into the quiet comfort of evening. The cat curls up on her lap, purring with the satisfaction of a creature who knows she is exactly where she belongs. The world outside is peaceful. The only sounds the distant clatter of a cart and the soft, muffled laughter of neighbors sharing a final word before parting. The air is cool and sweet, carrying the scent of wood smoke and the promise of rest. Marga closes the shutters, banks the fire, and lights a final candle on the windowsill, a small beacon of warmth and welcome in the gathering dark. The apothecary is more than just a place to buy remedies. It is a haven, a gathering place, a small, sturdy anchor in a world that can sometimes feel too large and uncertain. Here, in the gentle glow of candlelight and the soft murmur of voices, there is comfort, safety, and the quiet magic of daily life. Every jar is a gift, every remedy a memory, every evening a new beginning. And so, as the last light fades and the village slips into sleep, the story of the apothecary's day comes to a gentle close, not with grand farewells or dramatic endings, but with the soft hush of night, the warmth of home, and the comforting certainty that, in the end, every life is a tapestry of small, beautiful moments. Moving on to the art of the medieval stained glass window, let us begin at the edge of the cathedral square, where the stones beneath your feet are cool and uneven, worn smooth by generations of footsteps. The air is crisp and fresh, tinged with the scent of dew, damp earth, wood smoke, and the faint, mineral tang of glass dust. The only sounds are the distant, drowsy call of a dove and the low, rhythmic toll of the cathedral bell, a sound as steady and comforting as a heartbeat. Our guide for the day is a glazier named Luck, a man with nimble fingers, a gentle smile, and a mind full of color and light. His workshop is a small, sunlit space tucked behind the cathedral, its windows crowded with jars of colored glass, pots of lead, and brushes of every size. The workbench is rough and scarred, dusted with a fine layer of glass powder that glitters in the morning light. Luck greets you with a nod, his eyes bright beneath a mop of unruly hair, and gestures for you to come closer. The workshop is alive with small, comforting sounds, the soft clink of glass as Luck selects a piece from a basket, the gentle scrape of a file as he shapes the edge, the quiet, rhythmic tap of a hammer as he fits the glass into a lead frame. In the corner, a cat curls on a pile of old rags, purring so quietly you can feel it more than hear it. Every so often, the cat opens one eye, surveys the room, and, finding everything in order, returns to her dreams of sunbeams and fluttering moths. There is a quiet magic in the way the morning unfolds. Luck holds a piece of blue glass up to the light, turning it this way and that, watching as the sun transforms it into a sliver of sky. He smiles, remembering the first window he ever made. A simple rose, its petals a little uneven, but glowing with a beauty that made the whole church seem to sing. Every window is a story, he says, his voice low and warm, a story told in light. The process begins with a drawing, a careful sketch on a sheet of parchment, the lines crisp and sure. Luck traces the pattern with a piece of charcoal, his hands steady, his mind drifting on the gentle current of the day. Each curve, each angle, is measured and marked, a map for the journey ahead. The design is simple, a circle of roses, a border of leaves, a dove at the center, wings outstretched in flight. Next comes the glass itself. Luck selects each piece with care, holding it up to the light, listening for the soft, musical ring that means it is strong and true. He scores the surface with a diamond-tipped tool, the sound sharp and satisfying, and snaps the glass along the line, the edges smooth and bright. The colors are rich and deep, cobalt blue, ruby red, emerald green, and a golden yellow that seems to hold the sun itself. If you've ever sorted through a box of colored marbles or sea glass, you'll know the quiet joy of finding just the right shade. The workshop is full of small, comforting details. A pot of lead sits on the hearth, its surface shimmering in the heat. Luck pours it into a mold, forming the slender strips that will hold the glass in place. He fits each piece into the frame, pressing it gently, the lead yielding just enough to cradle the glass without breaking it. The pattern grows, piece by piece, a puzzle of color and light. There are oddities and gentle humor in every corner. A brush with a handle carved in the shape of a rabbit, said to bring good luck if you use it on a Wednesday. A jar of gold paint that always seems to be just full enough, no matter how many times it's used. A small, round stone that Luck keeps on his desk, smooth and cool. A gift from a friend who claimed it would keep his hand steady on long, sleepy afternoons. As the sun climbs higher, the workshop fills with golden light, and the first visitors arrive. The master builder stops by to check the progress on a new window, his voice low and thoughtful as he discusses the day's work with Luck. They pore over the parchment plan, the lines and curves traced in charcoal, and debate the best way to fit the glass so that the window will sing with color when the sun shines through. It's all in the balance, the master says, and Luke nods, knowing that every piece, every joint, every tiny adjustment matters. The art of the stained glass window is a dance of patience and strength, of color and light. Luck lifts a finished panel to the window, and the room is transformed, a tapestry of blue and gold, red and green, dancing across the walls and floor. The cat, ever the connoisseur of comfort, stretches in a patch of colored light, her fur glowing with a dozen different hues. And so, as the morning unfolds, we find ourselves in a world where comfort is measured in the warmth of the sun and the gentle glow of colored glass, where every window is a small act of care, and where the simple magic of the glazier's craft is enough to make even the sleepiest soul feel at home. The morning deepens, and the workshop is now alive with the gentle, purposeful rhythm of creation. The air is warm, filled with the scent of melting leaves, the faint sweetness of beeswax, and the sharp, mineral tang of glass dust. Luck, our glazier, wipes his hands on his apron and surveys the growing window on his workbench. A mosaic of color and light, each piece carefully chosen, each curve and angle a quiet testament to patience. The process is slow and hypnotic. Luck selects a piece of ruby glass, its surface cool and smooth, and holds it up to the sunlight streaming through the window. The color glows, deep and rich, like a drop of wine caught in a sunbeam. He scores the glass with his diamond, tip tool, the sound a soft, satisfying scratch, and snaps it along the line, the break clean and true. He fits the piece into the lead frame, pressing it gently, the metal yielding just enough to cradle the glass without cracking it. The workshop is full of small, comforting details. A row of brushes, their bristles stained with every color of the rainbow, sits in a jar by the window. A pot of gold paint, thick and gleaming, waits to be used for the final, delicate touches. The cat, ever the supervisor, has found a new patch of sunlight and sprawls across a pile of rags, her tail twitching in a dream. Luck pauses to scratch her behind the ears, murmuring that every good workshop needs a cat to keep the mice and the mischief at bay. There are visitors throughout the day, each bringing a bit of the outside world with them. The master builder returns, his boots dusty and his hands full of plans, to check the progress on the window. He and Luke discuss the placement of each piece, their voices low and thoughtful, the conversation punctuated by the occasional, gently exasperated sigh when a piece refuses to fit. Glass has a mind of its own, Luck says with a smile, but it usually comes around if you're patient. A young apprentice arrives, eyes wide with wonder to watch Luke at work. Luke explains the process, his voice low and soothing, as he demonstrates how to lay gold paint on the glass. The apprentice gasps as the gold catches the light, and Luck smiles, remembering his own first time in the workshop, the sense of awe and possibility that filled his heart. He hands the apprentice a scrap of glass and a brush, encouraging him to try his hand at a simple design. The result is a little wobbly, but full of promise, and Luck praises his effort, tucking the scrap into a drawer for safekeeping. The workshop is a place of gentle humor and quiet camaraderie. Luck's neighbor, the potter, stops by to trade a jug of cider for a handful of colored glass shards. "For my daughter's mosaic," he explains, though Luck suspects the potter simply enjoys the excuse to linger in the warm, bright room. They share a cup of cider, the taste crisp and sweet, and swap stories about the quirks of their crafts. Clay is forgiving, the potter says, but glass remembers every mistake. Luck laughs, agreeing that every art has its own stubborn streak. As the day unfolds, the window grows beneath Luck's hands, a tapestry of color and light. Each piece a small act of care, each joint a quiet promise of strength. He works slowly, his mind drifting on the gentle current of the day. The world outside fades, and the workshop becomes a sanctuary of warmth, color, and quiet joy. There are oddities and gentle wonders in every corner. A brush with a handle carved in the shape of a rabbit, said to bring good luck if you use it on a Wednesday. A jar of blue pigment that always seems to be just full enough, no matter how many times it's used. A small round stone that Luck keeps on his desk, smooth and cool, a gift from a friend who claimed it would keep his hand steady on long, sleepy afternoons. As the sun begins its slow descent, the workshop glows with the promise of comfort and the quiet magic of daily life. A world where every window is a small act of devotion, and every brushstroke is a memory waiting to be made. And so, as the afternoon ripens, we find ourselves in a place where the worries of the world are left at the door, and the only thing that matters is the next piece of glass, the next gentle moment of creation, and the soft, golden light that fills the room. As the afternoon drifts toward evening, the workshop is bathed in a gentle amber glow. The sun, now low in the sky, sends long beams of light through the high windows, making the colored glass on Luck's workbench shimmer and dance. The air is warm and still, thick with the scent of beeswax, a hint of wood smoke from the hearth, and the faint, sweet perfume of violets from the garden just outside the door. Luck, our glazier, sits back for a moment, stretching his arms and flexing his fingers. He surveys the nearly finished window, a tapestry of blue, gold, and green, each piece of glass carefully chosen, each line of lead a quiet promise of strength. The cat, ever the connoisseur of comfort, has found a patch of colored light on the floor and sprawls there, her fur glowing with a dozen different hues. Luck smiles, dipping his brush into a pot of gold paint, and adds the final, delicate touches to a border of wild roses and curling vines. There are oddities and gentle humor even in the closing of the day. A piece of glass that refuses to fit, no matter how many times Luck turns it, finally slides into place with a soft, triumphant click. Stubborn as a mule, but prettier, he murmurs, earning a slow blink of approval from the cat. A brush, worn down to a single bristle, is retired with a quiet ceremony and tucked into a jar with its fellows. A small, silent honor guard for a tool well used. The workshop is quieter now, the other craftsmen having finished their work and gone to tend to their evening chores. The potter's laughter drifts in from the lane, mingling with the distant clang of the cathedral bell and the soft, rhythmic sweep of a broom as the apprentice tidies the floor. Luck wipes his hands on his apron, the fabric warm and soft, and sets aside his tools with the care of someone who knows that every chisel, every brush, is a friend. As the sun sets, the workshop glows with the soft light of candles, their flames flickering in the gentle draft from the open door. Luck lifts the finished window, holding it up to the last rays of sunlight. The colors blaze to life, deep blue like the evening sky, gold as bright as the sun, green as soft as new leaves. The pattern is simple, but there is a quiet beauty in its lines, a sense of peace and promise that fills the room. The cat, sensing that her work is done, curls up on a pile of rags and purrs herself to sleep. Luck tidies his bench, sweeping the last of the glass dust into a small jar. For luck, he says, though he suspects it's mostly for the pleasure of watching the colors swirl. He closes the shutters, banks the fire, and lights a final candle on the windowsill, a small beacon of warmth and welcome in the gathering dark. The world outside is peaceful. The only sounds the distant clatter of a cart and the soft, muffled laughter of neighbors sharing a final word before parting. The air is cool and sweet, carrying the scent of wood smoke and the promise of rest. Luck sits by the window, his hands wrapped around a mug of warm cider, and watches as the village settles into the quiet comfort of evening. The art of the stained glass window is more than just the making of beauty. It is the weaving of light and color, the binding of community, the slow, steady creation of hope and wonder in a world that can sometimes feel too dark and uncertain. Every piece is a memory, every pattern a story, every finished window a small, sturdy promise that tomorrow will come, and it will be bright. And so, as the last light fades and the village slips into sleep, the story of the glazier's day comes to a gentle close, not with grand farewells or dramatic endings, but with the soft hush of night, the warmth of home, and the comforting certainty that, in the end, every life is a tapestry of small, beautiful moments. Moving on to a day in the life of a wealthy Roman merchant, let us begin in the Domus, the grand townhouse of our host, Marcus Lucius Varro, a merchant whose fortunes are woven from the silk of the East, the spices of Africa, and the cleverness of a mind always alert to opportunity. The Domus is a world unto itself, a haven of comfort and quiet luxury tucked behind high walls and a heavy wooden door. If you press your palm to the bronze knocker, you'll feel the faint, lingering warmth of the sun and hear the gentle murmur of a fountain in the atrium beyond. Step inside with me. The world changes at once. The air is cool and fragrant, thick with the scent of laurel, beeswax, and the faintest trace of rosewater. The floor is smooth beneath your feet, a mosaic of tiny tiles that glimmer in the morning light. The walls are painted with scenes of gardens and gods, their colors soft and inviting. In the center of the atrium, a shallow pool reflects the sky, its surface broken only by the slow, lazy drift of a single goldfish. Marcus rises early, his bed draped with linen sheets and a soft woolen blanket. He stretches, feeling the cool marble beneath his feet, and listens to the gentle sounds of the household waking around him. The distant clatter of a servant preparing breakfast, the soft splash of water as another tends the garden, and the low, musical hum of a flute played by a slave in the peristyle. If you've ever woken in a house full of quiet, purposeful activity, you'll know the feeling. A gentle invitation to linger just a little longer in the comfort of home. Breakfast is a simple, elegant affair. Marcus sits at a low table in the garden, the air alive with the scent of jasmine and the soft buzz of bees. A slave brings a tray of fresh bread, olives, figs, and a cup of watered wine. The bread is still warm, its crust crackling as Marcus breaks it, and the olives are plump and briny, their flavor sharp and bright. He eats slowly, savoring each bite, and watches as the sunlight filters through the leaves, painting dappled patterns on the table. The Domus is alive with small, comforting sounds. The gentle trickle of water in the fountain, the soft rustle of linen as a servant sweeps the floor, the quiet, rhythmic tap of a stylus as Marcus reviews his accounts, the wax tablet cool and smooth beneath his hand. In the corner, a cat curls on a cushion, purring so quietly you can feel it more than hear it. Every so often, the cat opens one eye, surveys the room, and, finding everything in order, returns to her dreams of sunbeams and spilled cream. There is a quiet magic in the way the morning unfolds. Marcus reviews a letter from a partner in Alexandria, the papyrus crisp and faintly scented with the sea. He smiles at the news of a shipment of cinnamon, imagines the taste of it in his wife's honey cakes, and makes a note to send a thank you gift. a bolt of fine linen, perhaps, or a jar of the family's best olive oil. He checks the accounts, his fingers moving quickly, and feels the quiet satisfaction of a day begun with purpose. As the sun climbs higher, the domus fills with golden light, and the first visitors arrive. A client comes to discuss a new venture, a shipment of glass from the workshops of Sidon, delicate and clear as spring water. Marcus listens, his eyes bright with interest, and offers advice, a kind word, and the promise of an introduction to a friend at the port. The conversation is easy, full of gentle humor and the quiet confidence of men who know the value of trust. There are oddities and gentle humor in every corner. A mosaic in the dining room depicts a mouse stealing a grape from a startled peacock, a scene that never fails to make Marcus smile. A jar of garum, the pungent fish sauce beloved by Romans, sits on the kitchen shelf, its aroma so strong that even the cat gives it a wide berth. A small, round stone, smooth and cool, rests on Marcus's desk, a gift from his daughter, who claims it brings luck in business and in dice games. As the morning unfolds, the domus glows with the promise of comfort and the quiet magic of daily life. A world where every deal is a small act of trust, and every shared meal is a memory waiting to be made. And so, as the day begins, we find ourselves in a place where the worries of the world are left at the door, and the only thing that matters is the next letter, the next conversation, the next gentle moment of connection. The city of Rome is now fully awake, and the domus hums with the gentle bustle of daily life. The sun climbs higher, sending shafts of golden light through the open atrium and dappling the mosaic floor with shifting patterns. The air is alive with the distant sounds of the city, the clatter of wagon wheels on stone, the calls of street vendors hawking their wares, and the faint, rhythmic splash of water as a neighbor's servant sweeps the pavement outside. Marcus, our merchant, prepares for the day's business. He dons a fresh tunic, the linen cool and crisp against his skin, and fastens a simple gold brooch at his shoulder. His sandals are soft and well-worn, the leather molded to the shape of his feet. He pauses for a moment in the peristyle garden, breathing in the scent of blooming roses and the sharp tang of rosemary. The fountain burbles quietly, its water catching the sunlight and sending tiny rainbows dancing across the marble. The domus is a place of gentle rituals and small comforts. Marcus's wife, Livia, sits at her loom in a sunlit corner, her hands moving with practiced ease as she weaves a length of cloth. The soft clack of the shuttle, the rough texture of the wool, and the faint scent of lanolin fill the air. She greets Marcus with a smile and a gentle tease about his habit of losing his stylus. Perhaps the cat is starting a collection, she suggests, glancing at the feline, who is now curled up in a patch of sunlight, looking as innocent as only a cat can. Breakfast finished, Marcus steps out into the bustling street, his steps sure and unhurried. The city is a tapestry of color and sound. Market stalls line the forum, their awnings striped in red and gold, and the air is thick with the scent of fresh bread, ripe figs, and the sharp tang of olives. Merchants call out their prices, their voices rising above the crowd in a chorus of offers and counter-offers. A potter displays his wares, bowls, jugs, and lamps, each one stamped with a tiny dolphin. A fishmonger's table is piled high with gleaming sardines, their scales catching the light like tiny coins. Marcus moves through the market with the easy confidence of someone who knows every stall, every shortcut, every friendly face. He greets the baker, who offers him a sweet roll still warm from the oven, and the olive seller, who insists he try a new variety from the hills outside the city. The bread is soft and fragrant, the olives briny and sharp, and Marcus savors each bite, exchanging gentle jokes and news of the day. There are oddities and gentle humor everywhere. A juggler in a faded blue tunic entertains a crowd with apples borrowed from the fruit seller's stall, his hands moving in a blur as he tosses and catches with practiced ease. The fruit seller, arms crossed and eyes twinkling, pretends to scold him, but slips him a bruised pear as a reward when the act is done. A pair of old friends sit on a bench, sharing a loaf of bread and a flask of wine. Their conversation drifting from the weather to the merits of different cheese rinds, to the mysterious disappearance of the magistrate's hat at last year's festival. So the hat, it is rumored, is still making the rounds, appearing at the oddest moments atop the heads of unsuspecting citizens. Marcus's business takes him to the port, where the air is thick with the scent of salt and tar, and the cries of gulls echo above the masts of ships from every corner of the world. He inspects a shipment of silk from the east, the fabric cool and smooth, beneath his fingers, its colors rich and deep. He negotiates with a trader from Alexandria, their conversation a dance of offers and counter-offers, each word chosen with care and a hint of friendly rivalry. The deal is sealed with a handshake and a promise to share a cup of wine at the next festival. The port is a place of energy and possibility. Sailors unload crates of spices, their scents mingling in the air. Cinnamon, pepper, and the sharp, sweet bite of ginger. A scribe sits at a small table, recording the day's arrivals and departures, his stylus scratching softly on the wax tablet. Children dart between the barrels, their laughter ringing out as they chase a stray dog, who seems to be enjoying the game far more than the children. As midday approaches, Marcus returns to his domus, his arms full of parcels and his mind full of plans. The air inside is cool and quiet, a welcome respite from the bustle of the city. He sets his purchases on the table, a bolt of silk for Livia, a jar of honey for the kitchen, and a small, carved figurine for his daughter, who greets him with a hug and a flurry of questions about the market. Lunch is a simple, joyful affair. The table is set with bread, cheese, olives, and a dish of honeyed figs. The family gathers in the garden, the air filled with the scent of roses and the soft buzz of bees. They share stories of the morning, laughter mingling with the gentle clink of pottery and the distant, muffled sounds of the city beyond the walls. And so, as the sun climbs higher and the shadows grow shorter, the day in the life of a wealthy Roman merchant continues. A world of comfort, connection, and the quiet magic of daily life. The afternoon in Rome drifts by with a gentle, golden ease. The domus is cool and shaded, a welcome retreat from the sun-baked streets outside. Marcus, our merchant, sits in his study, a room lined with shelves of scrolls and small treasures from distant lands. The table beneath his hands is smooth and worn, the wood polished by years of careful work. The air is thick with the scent of parchment, ink, and the faint sweetness of dried figs left in a bowl for snacking. Marcus reviews his accounts, the stylus gliding over the wax tablet with a soft, satisfying scratch. He pauses now and then to sip watered wine, the cup cool and heavy in his hand, and to gaze out the window at the garden, where Livia tends her roses and the cat stalks a particularly bold butterfly. The world outside is full of movement and sound, but here, in the quiet heart of the house, there is only the slow, steady rhythm of thought and the gentle comfort of routine. There are visitors in the afternoon, a client seeking advice on a new venture, a neighbor bringing news of a festival, a friend from the Senate with a story about a runaway goat, and a very surprised magistrate. Marcus listens with a smile, offering a word of encouragement here, a gentle joke there. The conversation is easy, full of warmth, and the quiet confidence of people who know that, whatever the world may bring, there is always comfort in good company and a shared laugh. The domus is alive with small, comforting details. The rough texture of the mosaic floor beneath bare feet. The soft glow of candlelight flickering in the corners as the day begins to fade. The distant, muffled sounds of the city. A street vendor calling out the price of fresh peaches, the clatter of a cart returning from the port, the low, musical hum of a lullaby sung to a sleepy child. The air is cool and sweet, carrying the promise of evening and the gentle hush that comes with the end of a busy day. As the sun sets, The family gathers in the triclinium for the evening meal. The table is set with care, bowls of olives, platters of roasted vegetables, a dish of honeyed dates, and a loaf of bread still warm from the oven. The wine is poured, the candles are lit, and the room glows with a soft, golden light. Marcus and Livia share stories of the day, their voices low and contented, while their daughter listens with wide eyes, her hands busy with a small, carved figurine from the market. There is gentle humor in the rituals of supper. The cat, ever hopeful, weaves between the table legs, her eyes fixed on the bowl of fish. Marcus teases Livia about her roses, claiming that the cat is the true gardener of the house. Livia laughs, promising to teach the cat to weed if Marcus will teach her to balance the accounts. The conversation drifts from the day's business to dreams for the future, to memories of festivals past and the quiet, steady joys of home. After supper, the family moves to the garden, where the air is cool and fragrant, with the scent of night blooming jasmine. The city is quieter now, the distant sounds softened by the darkness. The stars begin to appear, one by one, their light reflected in the still water of the fountain. Marcus sits with Livia on a stone bench, their daughter curled up beside them, the cat purring softly in her lap. They watch as the moon rises over the rooftops, casting a silver glow over the city and the quiet world within their walls. The domus is peaceful. The only sounds the soft breathing of the cat and the distant, comforting toll of the city's bells. Marcus closes his eyes, listening to the gentle music of the night, the rustle of leaves, the whisper of water, the slow, steady heartbeat of a city at rest. He thinks of the day's work, the small triumphs and gentle joys, and the quiet satisfaction of a life built on care, connection, and the enduring magic of home. And so, the day in the life of a wealthy Roman merchant comes to a gentle close. Not with grand farewells or dramatic endings, but with the soft hush of night, the warmth of family, and the comforting certainty that, in the end, every life is a tapestry of small, beautiful moments. Moving on to the secret world of a medieval cartographer, let us begin at the edge of the town square, where the cobblestones are cool and uneven, worn smooth by generations of footsteps. The air is crisp and fresh, tinged with the scent of dew, damp earth, wood smoke, and the faint, sharp perfume of ink. The only sounds are the distant, drowsy call of a dove and the low, rhythmic toll of the church bell, a sound as steady and comforting as a heartbeat. Our guide for the day is a cartographer named Elias, a man with nimble fingers, a gentle smile, and a mind full of distant lands and imagined coastlines. His workshop is a small, sunlit room tucked above a bustling apothecary, its windows crowded with jars of pigment, rolls of parchment, and a collection of curious stones and shells from faraway shores. The workbench is rough and scarred, dusted with a fine layer of charcoal and the occasional stray feather from a quill. Elias greets you with a nod, his eyes bright beneath a mop of unruly hair and gestures for you to come closer. The workshop is alive with small, comforting sounds. The soft scratch of a quill as Elias sketches the curve of a river. The gentle clink of glass as he mixes a new batch of blue pigment, the color deep and luminous as a summer sky. The quiet, rhythmic tap of his fingers on the edge of the table as he considers the best way to draw a mountain range he has only ever seen in stories. In the corner, a cat curls on a pile of old maps, purring so quietly you can feel it more than hear it. Every so often, the cat opens one eye, surveys the room, and, finding everything in order, returns to her dreams of dragons and distant islands. There is a quiet magic in the way the morning unfolds. Elias unrolls a fresh sheet of parchment, its surface smooth and cool beneath his hand. He sketches the outline of a coastline, the line wavering just a little, as if the land itself is breathing. He adds a cluster of mountains, a winding river, and a tiny, imagined village, each detail a small act of creation, a promise to the future that the world is full of places yet to be discovered. As the sun climbs higher, The workshop fills with golden light, and the first visitors arrive. A merchant stops by to commission a map for his next journey, his voice low and eager as he describes the lands he hopes to see. Elias listens carefully, asking gentle questions, his quill poised above the parchment. "And what of the forests?" he asks. "Are they as dense as the stories say?" The merchant laughs, admitting that he's never been brave enough to find out, but that he's heard tales of wolves and wild boar, and a hermit who lives in a tree and speaks only in riddles. There are oddities and gentle humor in every corner, a compass that always points just a little to the left, no matter how many times Elias adjusts it. A jar of gold leaf that seems to last forever, though Elias suspects the cat may be responsible for its mysterious replenishment. A small, round stone that sits on the windowsill, smooth and cool, a gift from a sailor who claimed it was the heart of a lost island. Elias laughs as he tells you about the time he tried to map the local tavern and ended up with a chart that led straight to the baker's oven. "A happy accident," he says, "especially if you like honey cakes." The cartographer's craft is a dance of patience and imagination. Elias dips his quill into a pot of ink, the scent sharp and earthy, and draws a line of tiny trees along the edge of a forest. He adds a sea monster to the corner of the map, its tail curling around a compass rose, and a ship with billowing sails, its flag snapping in an imaginary wind. Each detail is a small act of care, a way of saying that the world is not just a place to be measured, but a place to be wondered at. As the morning unfolds, the workshop glows with the promise of comfort and the quiet magic of daily life, a world where every map is a small act of devotion, and every brushstroke is a memory waiting to be made. And so, as the day begins, we find ourselves in a place where the worries of the world are left at the door, and the only thing that matters is the next line, the next color, the next gentle moment of creation. The morning matures, and the cartographer's workshop is now a haven of gentle, purposeful activity. Sunlight pours through the small, wavy glass panes, painting the parchment and jars of pigment in warm, golden hues. The air is thick with the scent of ink, beeswax, and the faint, sweet tang of dried lavender tucked into a corner for luck. Elias, our cartographer, sits at his workbench, his quill gliding over the parchment in slow, careful strokes. He pauses to sharpen his quill with a small, worn knife, the shavings curling like tiny ribbons onto the table. The sound is soft and satisfying, a quiet punctuation in the symphony of the workshop. He tests the point on a scrap of parchment, watching as the ink blooms in a perfect, dark line. Satisfied, he returns to his map, adding a cluster of tiny houses to a village nestled between two painted hills. The workshop is full of small, comforting details. A wooden box of compasses and rulers sits open on the bench, each tool worn smooth by years of use. A battered mug half filled with cool water rests beside a plate of honey cakes, one of which has mysteriously vanished, though the cat, now dozing in a patch of sunlight, offers no explanation. The shelves are lined with jars of pigment ochre, indigo, verdigris, and a particularly stubborn red that Elias claims is as temperamental as a spring storm. Visitors come and go, each bringing a bit of the outside world with them. The town's miller arrives, his hands dusted with flour, to ask for a map of the river and its winding tributaries. Elias listens, sketching the curves of the waterway with a practiced hand, and adds a tiny mill wheel to mark the spot. The miller grins, promising a sack of the finest flour in return, and leaves with a wave and a gentle joke about not getting lost on the way home. A young apprentice from the cathedral stops by, eyes wide with wonder, to watch Elias at work. Elias explains the art of mixing pigments, his voice low and soothing, as he demonstrates how to grind lapis lazuli into a powder as blue as the summer sky. The apprentice tries his hand at drawing a compass rose, his lines a little wobbly but full of promise. Elias praises his effort, tucking the scrap of parchment into a drawer for safekeeping. a small, secret encouragement for the next time the apprentice visits. There are oddities and gentle humor everywhere. A compass that insists on pointing toward the bakery, no matter how many times Elias recalibrates it. A map of the local woods, complete with a warning. Here be bees. Approach with honey. A tiny, painted dragon curled around the edge of a mountain range, its tongue flicking out as if tasting the wind. Elias laughs as he adds a flock of geese to a pond. Remembering the time he tried to map the village green and was chased by a particularly territorial gander. The cartographer's craft is a blend of science and story, of careful measurement and wild imagination. Elias consults a battered book of travelers' tales, his finger tracing the faded script as he searches for the name of a distant city. He adds it to the map, the letters looping and elegant, and draws a winding road leading toward the unknown. Each map is a conversation with the world, a way of asking questions, of dreaming about what lies beyond the next hill or across the next river. As midday approaches, the workshop settles into a peaceful lull. Elias sets aside his quill and stretches, his back pleasantly tired from hours of careful work. He opens the window, letting in a breeze that carries the distant sounds of the town, the clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the laughter of children playing in the square, the soft, rhythmic sweep of a broom as a shopkeeper tidies her stall. Lunch is a simple, joyful affair. Elias shares a loaf of bread, a wedge of cheese, and a handful of cherries with a neighbor who stops by to trade news, and a story about a traveling merchant who claims to have seen a city made entirely of glass. They eat in companionable silence, the only sounds the crunch of crust and the gentle hum of bees in the garden below. The afternoon brings a new commission, a map for a merchant planning a journey to a distant port. Elias listens carefully, asking questions about the route, the dangers, and the places the merchant hopes to visit. He sketches the coastline, the harbors, and the winding roads, his hand steady, his mind drifting on the gentle current of the day. The merchant leaves with a promise to bring back a shell from the farthest shore, and Elias tucks the memory away like a treasure. And so, as the sun climbs higher and the shadows grow shorter, the secret world of the medieval cartographer continues. A world of comfort, curiosity, and the simple, enduring magic of making sense of the world, one careful line at a time. And so, as the day begins, we find ourselves in a place where the worries of the world are left at the door, and the only thing that matters is the next line, the next color, the next gentle moment of creation. As the afternoon drifts toward evening, the light in Elias's workshop softens, turning the parchment on his workbench to gold and the jars of pigment to glowing jewels. The air is warm and still, thick with the scent of ink, beeswax, and the faint sweetness of apples from the orchard beyond the window. The cat, now thoroughly convinced that she is the true mistress of the workshop, stretches and leaps onto the bench, her paws leaving faint prints in a patch of blue dust. Elias sits back for a moment, his hands stained with color, and surveys the day's work. The map before him is nearly finished, a tapestry of rivers and roads, forests and mountains, each detail a small act of care. He runs his fingers over the parchment, feeling the subtle ridges where the ink has dried, the places where the brush lingered a little longer, the spot where a drop of water left a faint, silvery mark. Perfectly imperfect, he murmurs, smiling, just like the world. The workshop is quieter now, the bustle of the day replaced by a gentle, contented hush. The last visitors have gone, their footsteps fading down the stairs, their voices drifting away on the evening breeze. Elias tidies his tools, wiping each quill and brush with a cloth, setting them in their places on the workbench. He sweeps the floor, gathering up the day's dust and shavings, and tosses them into the fire, where they curl and vanish in a brief, fragrant puff of smoke. There are oddities and gentle humor even in the closing of the day. A compass, finally persuaded to point north, is given a place of honor on the shelf. The cat, ever the opportunist, bats at a stray feather, her tail flicking with satisfaction. Elias laughs, promising to draw her into the next map as a guardian of hidden treasures. He sets aside a small, round stone, a gift from a friend who claimed it would bring luck on long journeys, and places it on the windowsill, where it catches the last light of the sun. As the sun sets, the workshop glows with the soft light of candles, their flames flickering in the gentle draft from the open window. Elias sits by the window, his hands wrapped around a mug of warm cider, and watches as the town settles into the quiet comfort of evening. The world outside is peaceful. The only sounds the distant clatter of a cart and the soft, muffled laughter of neighbors sharing a final word before parting. The art of the cartographer is more than just the making of maps. It is the weaving of stories, the binding of community, the slow, steady creation of hope and wonder in a world that can sometimes feel too large and uncertain. Every line is a memory, every pattern a story, every finished map a small, sturdy promise that tomorrow will come, and it will be full of new places to explore. Elias closes the shutters, banks the fire, and lights a final candle on the windowsill, a small beacon of warmth and welcome in the gathering dark. He sits at his desk, writing a few lines in his journal, a record of the day's work, a memory of a particularly beautiful shade of blue, a note to thank the baker for the honey cakes. He sketches a quick drawing of the cat, curled in the last patch of sunlight, and adds a line of poetry about the comfort of quiet places and the gentle magic of making something beautiful with your own two hands. The world outside is dark and still. The only sounds the soft breathing of the cat and the distant, comforting toll of the church bell. The workshop is quiet, the tools cleaned and the candles extinguished, but the memory of the day lingers. A tapestry of color, light, and the simple, enduring joy of creation. And so, the secret world of the medieval cartographer comes to a gentle close, not with grand farewells or dramatic endings, but with the soft hush of night, the warmth of home, and the comforting certainty that, in the end, every life is a map of small, beautiful moments. Moving on to the lost city of Pompeii, let's begin at dawn, as the first golden light spills over the rooftops and paints the city in soft, honeyed hues. The sky is clear, the air cool and fresh, carrying the faint aroma of olive groves and the salty tang of the Bay of Naples. In the distance, Mount Vesuvius rises, serene and untroubled, its slopes green and inviting. A gentle giant, not yet the infamous villain of history. Our guide for the day is Livia, a baker's daughter with flour-dusted hands and a knack for finding the best figs in the market. She wakes in a small, tidy house on a quiet street, the walls painted with bright frescoes of birds and flowers. The floor is cool beneath her feet as she slips outside, greeted by the soft cooing of doves and the distant clatter of a cart on the cobblestones. If you've ever woken up early in a city before the world is fully awake, you'll know the feeling. A gentle hush full of promise. The city is already stirring. Merchants open their shops, sweeping the thresholds and arranging their wares. Jars of garum, baskets of fruit, bolts of cloth in every color. The air is alive with the sounds of daily life, the calls of vendors, the laughter of children, and the rhythmic splash of water as a servant fills a jug at the public fountain. Livia greets her neighbors with a smile, exchanging a few words about the weather and the latest news. Who's getting married, whose dog has gone missing, and whether the baker's new apprentice can be trusted not to burn the bread. The jury is still out on that one. A breakfast is a simple affair, a piece of fresh bread, a handful of olives, and a cup of watered wine. Livia's father, already hard at work in the bakery, slides loaves into the oven. The scent of baking bread drifting down the street and drawing a steady stream of customers. The bakery is a hub of activity, with neighbors stopping by not just for bread, but for a bit of conversation and the latest gossip. If you've ever lingered in a coffee shop just a little longer than necessary, you'll understand the appeal. After breakfast, Livia sets out for the market, her basket swinging at her side. The streets of Pompeii are a patchwork of sights and sounds. Mosaic floors gleaming in the sunlight, painted walls advertising everything from wine to gladiator games, and the occasional, slightly faded, political slogan urging citizens to vote for one candidate or another. The market itself is a riot of color and noise. Stalls piled high with figs, dates and pomegranates, fishmongers calling out the day's catch, and a spice seller whose wares are so pungent that even the local cats keep their distance. There are oddities and small wonders everywhere. A street musician plays a tune on a double flute, his hat outstretched for coins. A group of children chase a stray dog through the forum, their laughter echoing off the marble columns. In one corner, a fortune teller reads omens in a bowl of water, her customers watching with a mix of hope and skepticism. Livia pauses to buy a handful of fresh herbs, exchanging a wink with the vendor, who claims his basil is blessed by Venus herself. Whether or not that's true, it does make an excellent addition to soup. As the sun climbs higher, the city grows busier. The baths open their doors, and the first patrons slip inside, eager for a soak and a bit of conversation. The air is thick with steam, and the scent of perfumed oil, and the tiled floors are cool beneath bare feet. Livia's mother, a fan of both gossip and a good massage, insists that the baths are the true heart of Pompeii. A place where news travels faster than the fastest chariot, and where even the most serious disputes can be settled with a splash and a laugh. The temples, too, are alive with activity. Priests and priestesses tend to the altars, offering prayers and small sacrifices to the gods. The scent of incense drifts through the air, mingling with the sound of bells and the soft murmur of prayers. Livia stops to light a candle at the Temple of Fortuna, whispering a wish for good luck on her way to the market. If you've ever crossed your fingers before a big day, you'll understand the impulse. As midday approaches, the city settles into a gentle rhythm. The streets are shaded by awnings, and the air is filled with the promise of another day. Full of work, laughter, and the quiet satisfaction of life in a city that, for a moment, feels eternal. And so, as the sun reaches its zenith and the shadows grow short, we find ourselves in a world where every stone has a story, every street holds a secret, and the gentle routines of daily life are the true heart of Pompeii. As midday settles over Pompeii, the city hums with the gentle bustle of daily life. The sun is high, casting sharp shadows along the colonnaded streets and warming the mosaic floors beneath Livia's sandals. The air is thick with the mingled scents of roasting meat, fresh bread, and the sweet perfume of flowering vines that spill over garden walls. Somewhere, a dog barks, and the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer rings out from the workshops near the city gate. Livia weaves her way through the forum. The heart of Pompeii is public life. Here, merchants hawk their wares beneath striped awnings, their voices rising above the crowd in a chorus of offers and counter-offers. A fishmonger displays his catch on beds of crushed ice, while a potter arranges rows of gleaming amphorae, each one stamped with the mark of his workshop. The forum is a place of business, but also of gossip, politics, and the occasional impromptu debate about the best way to cook lentils. So, for the record, Livia's mother swears by a pinch of garum and a generous handful of herbs. The city's architecture is a marvel in itself. Grand temples rise above the rooftops, their marble columns gleaming in the sun. Statues of gods and heroes stand watch at every corner, their faces serene and slightly aloof, as if they're above the petty squabbles of mortals. The streets are paved with large, flat stones, worn smooth by generations of feet and the steady passage of carts. At the intersections, stepping stones allow pedestrians to cross without muddying their sandals. A small but ingenious touch that Livia appreciates, especially after last week's unexpected downpour. There are oddities and small wonders everywhere. Livia passes a bakery where loaves of bread, stamped with the baker's seal, cool on wooden racks. The baker's dog, a dignified creature with a nose for trouble, keeps a watchful eye on the proceedings, ready to defend the bread from any would-be thieves, human or otherwise. In a nearby shop, a perfumer grinds rose petals and spices, filling the air with a fragrance so rich that even the passing donkeys seem to pause and inhale. The city is alive with color and sound. Children play games in the shadow of the basilica, their laughter echoing off the stone. Artists paint frescoes on the walls of wealthy homes, their brushes moving in quick, sure strokes. In the shade of a fig tree, an old man recites poetry to a small audience, his voice rising and falling in the warm afternoon air. Livia pauses to listen, savoring the rhythm of the words and the gentle applause that follows each verse. As the heat of the day grows, many residents retreat indoors for a midday rest. The houses of Pompeii are cool and inviting, their walls painted with scenes of gardens, gods and mythic beasts. Livia's own home is a modest but cheerful place, with a small courtyard filled with potted plants and a fountain that burbles softly in the corner. She takes a moment to rest in the shade, sipping a cup of cool water and listening to the distant hum of the city. The afternoon brings a new round of activity. Livia's mother prepares for a visit to the baths, gathering a bundle of towels and a small jar of scented oil. The baths are a social hub, a place to relax, gossip, and catch up on the latest news. Livia tags along, eager for a break from the heat and a chance to see her friends. The bath complex is a marvel of Roman engineering, with rooms of varying temperatures, marble benches, and pools of clear, steaming water. The air is thick with steam and the sound of laughter, and the tiled floors are cool beneath bare feet. Inside the bath, the rituals of cleanliness and conversation blend together. Women chat as they soak in the warm water, sharing stories and advice, while children splash in the shallow pools. Attendants move quietly through the rooms, offering towels and the occasional gentle reminder not to linger too long in the caldarium. Livia's favorite part is the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool, where the shock of cool water is both bracing and oddly exhilarating. If you've ever jumped into a chilly lake on a hot day, you'll know the feeling. A sudden, joyful jolt that leaves you wide awake and grinning. There are odd facts and gentle humor even in the baths. Some women swear by a particular clay mask for glowing skin, while others insist that the secret to beauty is a daily splash of rosewater and a good night's sleep. The bathhouse cat, a sleek creature with a talent for finding the sunniest spot, is a favorite among the regulars who claim she brings good luck to anyone she chooses to nap beside. As the afternoon wanes, Livia and her mother return home, refreshed and ready for the evening meal. The city is quieter now, the heat softened by a gentle breeze from the sea. The streets are bathed in golden light, and the shadows grow long as Pompeii prepares for another night of laughter, stories, and the quiet magic of daily life. And so, as the sun begins to set and the city glows with the promise of evening, we find ourselves in a world where every moment is filled with beauty, curiosity, and the gentle rhythms of a life well lived. As evening settles over Pompeii, the city takes on a softer, golden glow. The sun dips behind the distant hills, and the sky is painted in shades of rose and lavender. The air cools, carrying the scent of jasmine and the distant, briny promise of the sea. Livia and her family gather in the atrium, the heart of their home, where a small pool reflects the fading light, and the gentle splash of water soothes the day's worries. Dinner is a leisurely affair, full of laughter and the clink of pottery. The table is set with simple but delicious fare, fresh bread, olives, cheese, and a stew of lentils and vegetables, seasoned with herbs from the garden. There's a dish of figs, sweet and sticky, and a jug of watered wine to share. The family talks about the day, who they saw at the market, what news the bathhouse brought, and whether the neighbor's rooster will ever learn to crow at a reasonable hour. A consensus unlikely. After the meal, the city comes alive in a different way. The streets are filled with the soft glow of oil lamps, and neighbors linger at their doorways, exchanging stories and jokes. Musicians play in the forum, their melodies drifting through the night air. Children chase each other through the alleys, their laughter echoing off the walls. Livia and her friends slip out to join the crowd, drawn by the promise of music and the thrill of a city that never truly sleeps. There are oddities and small wonders everywhere. A street performer juggles torches in the square, his movements quick and sure, while a storyteller spins tales of gods and monsters to a rapt audience. In a quiet corner, an artist sketches the scene, his charcoal moving swiftly across a scrap of parchment. The city is alive with creativity, each person adding their own thread to the tapestry of Pompeii's story. The temples are especially beautiful at night. Livia pauses at the steps of the Temple of Apollo, where the marble columns glow in the lamplight, and the air is thick with the scent of incense. She offers a silent prayer for her family's health and happiness, and for the city she loves. The priests move quietly through the shadows, tending to the altars and offering blessings to those who seek them. The sense of peace is almost tangible, a gentle reminder that, for all its bustle, Pompeii is a city built on faith and tradition. As the night deepens, the city grows quieter. Livia returns home, her feet tired but her heart full. She sits for a moment in the garden, listening to the distant sounds of the city, the soft murmur of voices, the gentle splash of water, the occasional bark of a dog. The stars emerge, bright and unblinking, scattered across the sky like tiny lanterns. The silhouette of Vesuvius looms in the distance. Peaceful and untroubled, its slopes bathed in moonlight. Inside, the house is cool and calm. Livia's mother tidies the kitchen, her father checks the locks, and her younger brother is already asleep, dreaming of gladiators and chariot races. Livia slips into bed, the linen cool against her skin, and lets her thoughts drift. She thinks of the day's adventures, the laughter of her friends, and the quiet beauty of her city. She wonders what tomorrow will bring. A new story, a new friend, perhaps a new favorite fig at the market. There are odd facts and gentle humor, even in the quiet of night. Some say that if you dream of the sea, you'll have good luck the next day. Others believe that a cat sleeping at the foot of your bed will keep away bad dreams. Livia, for her part, is content to let the night work its magic, trusting that the city she loves will still be there in the morning, full of life and possibility. And so, As Pompeii drifts into sleep, the city holds its secrets close, a world of beauty, laughter, and the gentle rhythms of daily life, preserved in memory and stone. The lost city is never truly lost, so long as its stories are told and its spirit endures. Moving on to life aboard a caravel in the age of discovery, let's begin at dawn. As the first pale light slips over the rolling waves and paints the sky in shades of rose and gold. The caravel rocks gently, her sails furled and her deck slick with dew. The world is hushed, save for the soft murmur of the sea and the distant cry of a gull, who, like most gulls, is already plotting to steal someone's breakfast. The crew stirs slowly, stretching cramped limbs and blinking sleep from their eyes. If you've ever woken up in a tent after a night of camping, you'll know the feeling. Except here, the ground moves, and the nearest tree is several hundred miles away. Our guide for the day is Joao, a young sailor with sun-bleached hair, calloused hands, and a talent for tying knots that would impress even the most skeptical scoutmaster. Joao's hammock is slung between two beams in the cramped forecastle, where the air is thick with the scent of damp canvas, old rope, and the faint, lingering aroma of last night's salted fish. He swings out of bed, careful not to step on his neighbor's boots, and makes his way up to the deck, where the sky is already brightening and the wind carries the promise of another long day at sea. Breakfast is a simple affair, a chunk of hardtack, which, despite its name, is neither particularly hard nor especially tacky, just stubbornly bland, a slice of dried cheese, and a cup of watered wine. The crew gathers in small groups, sharing quiet jokes, and the occasional complaint about the cook's creative use of spices. Joao's friend Pedro claims to have found a weevil in his biscuit, which, he insists, is a sign of good luck. Better a weevil in your bread than in your bed, he says, though no one seems entirely convinced. The caravel itself is a marvel of design, sleek, sturdy, and surprisingly nimble. Her hull is built of oak and pine, her sails patched and mended from a dozen different voyages. The deck is a maze of ropes, barrels, and crates, each one lashed down with the kind of care that comes from hard, earned experience. The captain, a stern but fair man with a beard that could shelter a family of sparrows, stands at the helm, scanning the horizon with a practiced eye. He greets Joao with a nod and a reminder to check the rigging. A loose knot is the sailor's curse, he says, though Joao suspects he just enjoys the sound of his own wisdom. The morning is spent in a flurry of activity. Some crew members climb the rigging to unfurl the sails, their figures silhouetted against the brightening sky. Others scrub the deck, their brushes sending up clouds of salt and sand. The carpenter inspects the hull for leaks, tapping the planks with a practiced ear, while the cook prepares the midday meal, a stew of beans, salt pork, and whatever vegetables have survived the journey so far. The air is filled with the sounds of work, the creak of wood, the snap of canvas, and the low hum of voices rising and falling with the rhythm of the sea. There are oddities and small wonders everywhere. A school of dolphins appears off the starboard bow, leaping and spinning in the morning light. The crew gathers at the rail, cheering and pointing, convinced that the dolphins are a sign of good fortune. Joao tosses a crust of bread into the water, and for a moment, the worries of the voyage are forgotten in the simple joy of watching the dolphins play. If you've ever found yourself distracted by a particularly interesting cloud during a long road trip, you'll understand the magic of these small moments. As the sun climbs higher, the heat intensifies. The crew seeks shade where they can, beneath the overhang of the forecastle, behind a stack of barrels, or under the shadow of a sail. Joao takes a turn at the pump, helping to keep the bilge water from rising too high. The work is hard and sweaty, but there's a sense of camaraderie in the shared effort. The boatswain, a gruff man with a surprisingly gentle laugh, tells stories of past voyages, of storms weathered, lands discovered, and the time he mistook a floating coconut for a sea monster. In his defense, it was a very large coconut. The midday meal is a welcome break. The crew gathers around the mainmast, bowls in hand, and shares a meal of stew and hardtack, washed down with a cup of watered wine. Conversation drifts from the day's work to dreams of home, to the ever-popular debate about whether the captain's beard is hiding a second, even more impressive beard underneath. Joao listens, laughs, and feels the gentle sway of the ship beneath him. A reminder that, for all its challenges, life at sea is a world unto itself, full of small joys and quiet wonders. And so, as the sun reaches its zenith and the shadows grow short, we find ourselves in a place where every day is shaped by wind and water, by the steady rhythm of the waves and the quiet strength of those who call the caravel home. As the afternoon sun blazes overhead, the caravel glides steadily across the endless blue. The sails billow with the wind, their canvas patched and sun-bleached, creaking softly as the ship leans into her course. The sea sparkles all around, a shifting mosaic of turquoise and indigo, and the horizon seems to stretch forever, a promise and a challenge, all at once. Joao, our young sailor, wipes sweat from his brow and takes a moment to lean against the rail, gazing out at the waves. The air is thick with the scent of salt tar and the faint, ever-present aroma of fish. Gulls wheel overhead, their cries sharp and insistent, as if reminding the crew that lunch is overdue. Below deck, the cook is hard at work, coaxing flavor from beans, pork, and a few tired onions. The galley is a cramped, smoky space, filled with the clatter of pots and the occasional, slightly alarming, burst of steam. If you've ever tried to make a meal in a tiny kitchen while the floor moves beneath your feet, you'll have a sense of the challenge. The afternoon is a time for chores and quiet routines. Some sailors mend sails, their fingers nimble as they stitch new patches onto old cloth. Others scrape barnacles from the hull, their laughter echoing over the water as they compete to see who can find the biggest, ugliest specimen. Joao is sent to help the carpenter, who is repairing a stubborn leak near the stern. The carpenter, a man of few words and many tools, grunts his approval as Joao hands him a mallet. "A ship is like a family," he says, "always in need of a little fixing." There are oddities and amusements to be found, even in the monotony of the open sea. A barrel of apples, stowed away at the last port, is discovered to be home to a family of stowaway mice. The crew debates what to do. Some suggest keeping them as pets, others as a potential emergency snack. In the end, the mice are granted honorary crew status, provided they stay out of the hardtack. The mice, for their part, seem to have no intention of following orders. The captain calls for a brief respite, and the crew gathers on deck for a bit of recreation. Someone produces a battered lute, and soon the air is filled with music and song. The tunes are a mix of old sea shanties, love ballads, and the occasional, slightly off-key attempt at a dance. Joao joins in, clapping along and laughing as Pedro tries to teach the boatswain a new step. The boatswain, who has all the grace of a barrel rolling downhill, gamely gives it a try, much to the amusement of the crew. If you've ever seen a group of friends attempt karaoke after a long day, you'll know the mood. as the sun begins to dip. The light softens, painting the sails and the faces of the crew in shades of gold and rose. The wind cools, and the air is filled with the gentle slap of waves against the hull. Joe now takes a turn at the helm, his hands steady on the wheel as the captain offers quiet guidance. The ship responds to every touch, her timbers creaking in contentment. There's a sense of pride in steering the caravel, a feeling that, for a moment, the whole world is open and waiting. The evening meal is a simple affair. More stew, a few precious apples, and a cup of wine passed from hand to hand. The crew gathers in small groups, sharing stories of home and dreams of what lies ahead. Some talk of gold and glory, others of family and the hope of safe return. Joao listens, his thoughts drifting to the distant shore, to the promise of discovery and the comfort of familiar voices. As night falls, the ship is bathed in moonlight, the sails glowing softly against the dark sky. The stars emerge, bright and unblinking, scattered across the heavens like a map of dreams. The navigator, a quiet man with a mind for numbers and a heart for poetry, points out the constellations, tracing their shapes with a calloused finger. "There's Orion," he says, "and the Southern Cross. Follow them, and you'll never be lost." Joao nods, feeling the weight and wonder of the journey. There are odd facts and gentle humor, even in the quiet of night. The ship's cat, a sleek creature with a talent for finding the warmest spot, curls up beside the helmsman, purring contentedly. The lookout, perched high in the crow's nest, sings softly to himself, his voice carried away by the wind. Below deck, the carpenter snores with the steady rhythm of a man who has earned his rest, while Pedro dreams of apples, mice, and a dance that finally goes right. And so, as the caravel sails on beneath the stars, the life of the crew unfolds in gentle rhythms, a world of work and wonder, laughter and longing, and the quiet magic of a journey into the unknown. As midnight drifts over the open sea, the caravel glides quietly beneath a sky thick with stars. The world is hushed, save for the gentle slap of waves against the hull and the soft creak of timbers settling into the night. The lanterns along the deck cast golden halos, their light flickering on the faces of the few sailors still awake. Most of the crew are asleep in their hammocks below, rocked by the slow, steady motion of the ship. A lullaby written by wind and water. Joao, our young sailor, is on the night watch. He stands at the rail, the salt air cool on his face, and listens to the distant call of a night bird. Perhaps a petrel, perhaps just the wind playing tricks. The sea is a dark, endless plain, broken only by the silver trail of moonlight and the occasional flash of a fish leaping from the water. There's a sense of peace in these hours, a feeling that the world is both impossibly vast and comfortingly small, held together by the fragile wooden bones of the caravel. The night watch is a time for quiet reflection and gentle conversation. Joao's companion, an older sailor named Miguel, shares stories of past voyages, of storms survived, islands discovered, and the time he mistook a floating barrel for a mermaid. "She was the prettiest barrel I ever saw," Miguel says with a wink, and Joao laughs, grateful for the company. They talk of home, of family, and of the strange, wonderful places that might lie just beyond the horizon. Below deck, the crew sleep in a patchwork of hammocks and blankets, their dreams filled with memories and hopes. The carpenter snores softly, the cook mumbles about apples, and Pedro, ever the optimist, dreams of a feast that never ends. The ship's cat prowls the shadows, her eyes gleaming in the lantern light, ever on the hunt for a stray mouse or a warm lap. There are oddities and small wonders even in the quiet of night. The navigator, unable to sleep, sits at his table with a battered star chart, tracing the constellations with a careful finger. He murmurs to himself, calculating the ship's position by the angle of the stars and the tilt of the moon. If you've ever tried to find your way home by the light of a street lamp, you'll appreciate the quiet magic of celestial navigation. A blend of science, art, and a little bit of hope. The captain, too, is awake. Pacing the deck with a mug of watered wine, he pauses to check the sails, to listen to the wind, and to offer a quiet word of encouragement to the night watch. His presence is steady and reassuring, a reminder that, for all the uncertainty of the journey, there is order and purpose in every day at sea. As dawn approaches, the sky begins to pale, and the first birds call out from somewhere beyond the horizon. The crew stirs, stretching and yawning, their faces lit by the soft glow of morning. Joao helps to raise the sails, his hands moving with practiced ease, and the caravel leans into the wind, eager for the new day. The cook appears with a pot of steaming porridge, the scent of cinnamon and honey drifting across the deck. The crew gather for breakfast, sharing stories of the night and dreams of what lies ahead. There are odd facts and gentle humor, even in the routines of morning. The boatswain insists that whistling on deck will summon a storm, while Pedro claims that a seagull landing on the mast is a sign of good luck, unless, of course, it leaves a gift behind. The crew debate the merits of various superstitions, each one convinced that his is the secret to a safe and successful voyage. As the sun climbs higher, the caravel sails on, her white sails billowing against the blue sky. The world is full of promise, the horizon wide and inviting. Joao stands at the rail, watching the waves and feeling the gentle pull of adventure. He knows that the journey will be long, that there will be storms and hardships, but also moments of wonder and joy. Dolphins leaping in the morning light, the taste of fresh fruit after weeks at sea, the laughter of friends beneath the stars. And so, as the caravel glides into the new day, the story of life aboard ship continues, a tapestry of work and wonder, of dreams and discovery, woven together by the steady rhythm of the sea and the quiet courage of those who dare to follow the horizon. And that, my dear friends, is where we will end tonight's story. Good night.